For much of its early history, Boeing garnered a reputation of being the engineer's company, where quality, design integrity, and technical excellence often took precedence over immediate cost concerns. This fundamental principle was instrumental in its early success and established Boeing as an innovator in the aviation industry. This golden age of Boeing included the introduction of many legendary planes. The Model 247 was introduced in 1933. It was the first plane with an all-metal construction, and it set a benchmark for speed, safety, and operational efficiency. It was also the first twin-engine aircraft that could fly on just one engine, critical features in the era of less reliable engines. Then during World War II, Boeing produced legendary bombers like the B-17 Flying Fortress and the B-29 Super Fortress, which played crucial roles in the Allied war effort. After the war, the world entered the jet age with the de Havilland Comet, which unfortunately was involved in a lot of crashes, leading to its grounding soon after. Then Boeing introduced the 707, their first jetliner. It incorporated design changes like Kruger flaps, which were a direct response to de Havilland Comets over an accident. This proactive approach to safety and learning from the wider incidents in the industry helped Boeing build its reputation for engineering excellence. In the 1960s, at the request of Pan Am CEO, Boeing started work on a truly huge plane. They introduced the first wide-bodied aircraft, the Boeing 747, also known as the Queen of the Skies. This legendary plane has ruled the sky and the imagination of flyers everywhere. The Boeing 747's ability to carry a lot of passengers resulted in a reduction of ticket prices and introduced millions of people to the world of long-haul air travel. So what changed? How did Boeing went from being an innovator to a disaster? To understand modern Boeing, we have to go back to 1997 when Boeing merged with McDonnell Douglas. While Boeing was focused on engineering excellence, McDonnell Douglas was more focused on financial prudence and cost cutting. Even though the merged entity has kept the name of Boeing, in spirit, it is more like McDonnell Douglas than it is pre-merger Boeing. This can be seen as the CEO of Boeing from 1996 to 2003 was also an engineer. In 2003, the ex-CEO of McDonnell Douglas became the new CEO of Boeing. This led to shifting cultures inside the company. Regulatory capture. The aviation industry is regulated in the US by the FAA. When a regulator from the FAA who is responsible for regulating Boeing retires from his job, he is then hired by Boeing to become a lobbyist at massive packages, which means that the incentive as a regulator is not to pressure Boeing on safety and quality, but to stay in their good books for these lucrative job offers in the future. For example, Ali Bahrami. Ali Bahrami was FAA's man in charge for the 787 Dreamliner, the plane that was involved in the 2025 crash in Ahemdabad. He gave the final approval to the 787 Dreamliner. After two batteries caught fire in 2013, just 2 years after the plane went into service, the plane was grounded by the FAA. It was Bahrami who signed it back into the air. Shortly after that, he retired from the FAA. Just 2 weeks later, Bahrami was hired by Aerospace Industries Association, which lobbies on behalf of Boeing. Soon after, he appeared before Congress calling for greater self-regulations for companies like Boeing.
We urge the FAA to allow greater use of delegation, not only to take full advantage of industry expertise, but to increase the collaboration that improves aviation safety.
Political influence. Now let's look at the relationship between Boeing and US politicians. Boeing employs about 175,000 people across many states in the US. Senators from any states where Boeing is a big employer push back against any attempts to ground the aircraft and investigate whistleblower claims. Apart from this, Boeing and its suppliers spend massive amounts of money on lobbying. Boeing is the 9th biggest spender on lobbying in the United States. I recently saw a video of Senator Josh Hawley ripping apart Boeing CEO go viral, but he has the wrong guy there. The guy he's giving the dressing down to, David Calhoun, became Boeing CEO in 2020. He was not even working at Boeing when these planes were being designed and developed. And he also left Boeing in 2024. They have a new CEO now. The right guy is James McNerney. He was Boeing CEO from 2005 to 2015. He oversaw the development of both the 737 MAX, which was involved in crashes in 2018 and 19, and the 787 Dreamliner, which was involved in the 2025 Ahemdabad crash. He sold a lot of planes and Boeing's stock price tripled during his tenure. He was the guy pushing for faster development and cost cutting at Boeing, and he has left behind a legacy soaked in blood. James McNerney was also the chair of President Obama's Export Council. Obama's chief of staff, William Daley, and John Bryson, his commerce secretary, also came from Boeing's board. Here, President Obama talks about being Boeing's second biggest salesperson after the CEO, James McNerney.
Other than maybe the CEO of Boeing, I don't know anybody who's done more to sell Boeing planes around the world than me.
You might be wondering what happened to him. Well, he retired from Boeing in 2016 and was getting a pension of $325,000 a month till the year 2031. This is the most important thing I learned when watching the Senate hearings, that most of the politicians were more interested in keeping the jobs safe instead of keeping the flying public safe. It is interesting to think about how differently the FAA and the US senators would have reacted if these crashes were happening on Airbus planes and not Boeing's. I don't think they would have waited as long as they did if the plane that was crashing was the Airbus A320 instead of the Boeing 737 MAX. Another interesting thing which can be seen as a physical manifestation of the changes in priority of the Boeing company is their headquarters. It used to be in Seattle where their factory is. A few years after the merger with McDonald Douglas, in 2001, they shifted it to Chicago, Illinois, which is more of a financial hub, which kind of signifies the focus of the new leadership, which was more on the financial metrics rather than engineering and creating a good product. And in 2022, they have shifted their headquarters again, but this time to Washington DC to get closer to regulators and politicians and for easy access to lobbying, which again shows another shift in their focus. Instead of focusing on improving the quality of their products, Boeing leadership is more interested in maintaining a good relationship with the politicians to legislate away any of the problems that they are facing. There is massive collusion going on between Boeing, the FAA, and some US politicians. And this is why I also think that nothing is going to change with Boeing. The only solution is to take control ourselves. If you like what you saw, like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you disliked it. And share this with a friend who might find this interesting. And yeah, that's all I have for today. See you again soon.